Sponsored by
Mother Promise, Mother Dairy.
My definition of a startup is solving a problem. Okay, a problem that has already been solved. You just want to start your business. The best ideas are generated out of the necessity. All the youngsters, do not be afraid of starting something. The biggest barrier is you of not having enough courage to start anything new, thinking that what's the purpose of it or it might fail. Any entrepreneur has to be a salesperson first. And if they are not good at selling the idea or the product, they'll not be able to go anywhere. And try to uncover all the hidden expenses even before you start your business. It's going to be the key to survival later on.
Hi, I'm Shreyasa Vijay and you're watching Ritam. Today, we are going to talk about entrepreneurship and startups. How to start a business from an Indian perspective. From getting an idea to raise funding and finding right investors. We are going to cover everything today. And to talk about this, we have with us Mr. Roopak Gupta, who is himself an entrepreneur and the founder of mTap, and also a technical advisor in Columbia University. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us. So firstly, I would like you to explain about mTap, what it actually does.
mTap is a networking tool. So when you are connecting for the first time with anyone, it allows you to share your information with them, capture the conversation that you are having, and then allows you to email or text or WhatsApp your information to the other person, whomever you are having the conversation with. The beauty is the other person does not have to do anything, and yet they will receive everything from you in their email.
You have completely revamped the way people used to network.
That's the point, because the way we network today is we are going to have a conversation, we are going to exchange contact. You are going to exchange contact by a paper card or the NFC cards that we are having these days. So we do also have NFC cards where you can just tap or QR code and the other person gets information. The problem is that we are more than just the binary name and the email in today's digital India. In today's world, we have presentations, we have videos, that is gonna convey who we are to the other person right away in the time when you're talking. So how can you communicate this vast information through a link is what we are solving, along with keeping the conversation very personalized and having that part of that conversation also in an email that is going to go out.
So people generally struggle with the idea for a business. So how did you come up with this idea? What was your inspiration?
The best ideas are generated out of the necessity. So you look around, any startup that has been successful has been because they were solving a pain point. So the reason this idea came into existence, or this product came into existence, is because I was having a pain point of doing the follow-up emails. Each email will take me about 5 to 10 minutes to write, and when I'm writing them, I will forget what was actually the conversation about. Coming back home after any meeting, it was taking me hours and hours to do the follow-ups, and then I was also missing information. That I was missing the actual conversation with the people. So that's it. And then after doing all of that, after investing about 2 or 3 days in an event, and then reinvesting more amount in doing the follow-up, and I said there has to be an easy solution. And that is what got me onto the journey of creating mTap. And the tipping point was also when my daughter asked me, why can't you do so much of digital stuff, and why can't you just digitize, because you are I was actually throwing up about 1,000 business cards in the bit. And she's like, you go digital, you are not using paper, why you are collecting these business cards? So you don't collect, let other person print it. You create something that you don't have to collect. And that's where even in mTap, we have a process where you can scan the business cards. And I literally have about 200 contacts and not a single paper card.
That's also environment friendly. So if we talk about youngsters, like many youngsters must be watching this show right now, and who would like to start a business in future, what is the first step in that process? Because when I came across your profile, I noticed that you have worked with several other companies and startups and everything. So how was your journey and what worked for you?
My journey of a startup started when I didn't even knew what is entrepreneurship. And I remember way back in 1989, I was sitting at my table, I was in 8th grade, and I was thinking, what should I make for my science exhibition? And I read a magazine that was talking about robotics and kids robot, and I said, okay, why don't I make a robot of my own? That's how my journey started. The key thing is to be curious. If you are curious about things, you try to investigate, you try to look into it, and then play with it. All the youngsters, do not be afraid of starting something. The biggest barrier is you of not having enough courage to start anything new, thinking that what's the purpose of it, or it might fail.
Yeah, of course.
So you have to go through a couple of iterations. You have to go through, figure out. If you have an idea, just take it, write down that idea, and in today's digital world, create a Facebook ad for it, or create a post and share. So when I started mTap specifically, I started testing it by putting it out on social media and see what's the reaction.
Okay.
And one of my videos got 1 million views, and we had 2,000 signups just to a landing page.
Wow.
And that told me, okay, there's a need for it. So whenever you have an idea, you figure out whether there's a need for it or not, and for that you don't have to build the product. You just have to pitch the idea in an innovative way. If you simply say, hey, this is my idea, people will not get it. Build something around it so that they also understand what is the essence of it. So what I did when we were doing the TikTok we actually did a TikTok video and an Instagram reel that got us going. We went to an event and we set up a small desk and just told people what we are doing and recorded those conversations, because those real conversations. So first step was whether there's a need for the idea. Second step is to get the feedback. So whatever you're building, whatever you're saying, be very open to the feedback component. So those were the two elements of it that we went early on in mTap, and today also we are taking constant feedback from people. Based on the feedback, we are adding new features.
Constantly improving.
Constantly improving. There's nothing which is built and done.
So let's say someone has an idea, he has worked upon it, contemplated over it, everything. So now what? What's the actual way to start a business?
Actual way, I'll say, is find your first customer.
How?
So in order for you to find your first customer, you might have to start doing an outreach. So any entrepreneur has to be a salesperson first. If they are not a salesperson first, they might not be even able to launch it, because they have to sell their idea to the customer. They have to sell their idea to an angel investor. They have to sell their idea to a VC. And if they are not good at selling the idea or the product, they'll not be able to go anywhere. So a person, as you are talking, has thought through an idea. They have build the product. To whom they are building it for? So they have to reach out to the customer, and if they are not able to find the customer, that means either the idea is not good, or their messaging is not right. So they have to find the customer. How do you find the customer? I do it in a way where I'll figure out who my customer profile is or the persona is. I'll go on LinkedIn and start finding them out and start connecting them and sending them messages. I'll go on social media and I'll try to connect with them in a way where I can reach to them and tell them about my product. It is a hard job. Out of 100 people, only one might respond. And that is where your tenacity and your commitment to your work is required. So you cannot get fear that, hey, no one is responding to me. So the point being that if you believe in something, you got to keep changing your messaging and keep reaching to the audiences till you find, okay, I have exhausted all my channels. So if you are a kid, if you are a college student, your channel is your own college. Just go ahead, and in today's world, you have Facebook groups, you have WhatsApp groups, you have Instagram. So connect on social media. Not only that, there are many accelerators. Do not be afraid of reaching out to the managers and the people within the accelerators, and they are going to help us out. In my time back in 1994-96, I had created a robot that can clean the whole floor automatically, and there was no one to help out. in today's, you have groups in every college to do the funding.
What's the way to find the right investor if someone want to start a business?
So the way to find the right investors is look for the accelerators that are out there, and we can just do a Google search on startup accelerators, and we will find them and just do an outreach to them. That's one way of it. Second is connect on LinkedIn and try to do warm introductions. Just do a search on angel investors. So yes, based on where your startup is, you got to look for the right way. So for example, the first round, you got to look for your friends and family round.
Okay.
Because if your own people are not able to support you, then the confidence is not building. So you got to look for your first within your own community, and then you go for the angel investors. Angel investors will give you enough money to take your idea into some kind of a minimal viable product. And then you look for other Series A investors or seed round investors who are going to giving you big money. But all of them can be found out through various accelerators which exist in India.
Today, like you were talking about India has become a major center for global innovations and businesses. Many investors are willing to come to India. So, what industries one should look into in 2024?
So, I look for the sectors which are at the cusp of integrating a physical devices with any of the software components leading to it. So, what I mean by that, right? You talk about robotics, you talk about drones, you talk about EVs, all the cars, they are in the same spectrum. The second area that is growing is going to be AI driven automation.
Okay.
Now, AI is a word in India where many people are afraid of, right? But at the same time, there are always good and bad of the same thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there are a lot of goods of AI, and that's going to lead up. It's going to help us out in multiple ways too. So like for example, language translations. The way I look at things is automation by AI.
Okay.
And second is integration interfaces between the physical devices and the software, right? So you can have, you can control the physical devices using a software, and that interface is going to be the key driven by the AI.
All right, that is interesting.
So when we talk about interfaces between the physical devices and sensors and software, security is also on the forefront. You don't talk about that usually, but just to give an idea of what is coming up. Robotics. It's a very broad term, but then you break it down. So you have robotics, which is in manufacturing, exists for a long time.
Yeah.
But now, because of its availability and the controls that it can have and the advancements of AI, you can have robotics in other fields too, in farming also.
So AI is actually revolutionizing various sectors, including even health sector.
Yes, every health sectors, right? So, in fact, the way I look at it is your telehealth combined with drones can deliver healthcare in rural areas where you are hard to reach.
According to you, what is more logical? Starting a business which is already in trend, or something which is not right there currently, but you are passionate about?
So, my definition of a startup is solving a problem. Okay, a problem that has already been solved. You just want to start your business. So, if you are doing something that is already existing and you are just starting it up, to me that's a business you are starting. If you are trying to do a startup, that means you are trying to solve a new problem that has not been solved yet.
Like startup and business, both are two different.
Because in business, the road has been established. You do this, you do this, you do this, you do this. Like if I have to open up a retail shop, that's a business.
Okay.
Right? If I have to be a social influencer, to me that's a business, because the road has already been established. You are not going to try to figure out, okay, this is my new path. Whether I have to go from point A to point B, how do I go? That has been established, books written, you just have to follow that. But the key is to figure out what's the business viability.
Okay.
So what is my revenue coming in? So rather than just building, they need to first look at how much money am I going to make? How much expenses will I have? And try to uncover all the hidden expenses even before you start your business, is going to be the key to survival later on.
What are the main functions that one should focus on? Because in bigger companies, there are people to look at, different sectors, different separate functions, but like for marketing, for operations and everything. So in a startup, how does it work?
I have played the role of business analyst, as a researcher, a coder, a salesperson, as a financer.
So you have to be a generalist.
You have to be a
than
generalist.
specialist.
Yes.
Okay.
You have to be a generalist, and you need to, or if you are, and your core, and that is why you do partnerships. That's why you do co-found, because not one person can do everything. So if it is a tech startup, then your co-founder one has to be very heavy into tech, and the other person is being a generalist into every area. Like just the fundraising, it's a full-time job.
Yeah.
You have to create pitch decks, you have to find investors, you have to go them out, you have to pitch 200 investors, then you're going to be able to do it. But the key thing for any person to do a startup is they should understand that it is not an easy job, and they have to put in a lot of heavy hours. They need to be able to be good at taking feedback from people, adapt to that feedback, and be ready to pivot from their original idea. A lot of startups fail because they do not pivot at the right time.
What are the basic skills that one should have to initiate a startup?
The basic skills are the presentation skills and the speaking skills.
Okay.
You should be able to present your idea in a very succinct manner to anyone that you're talking to. You should not be afraid of talking to strangers and asking them for help or asking them the questions. Rest everything is very operational. Those are the skills that are required. But the key skill is, if I'm a founder and if I cannot talk about my idea to strangers, then I'll not be able to sell the idea. I'll not be able to learn about it. Right? So that's a core skill that is required, that we should be able to present our idea without fear and approach people just cold, without the fear of getting rejection. So that's the first core skill. The second skill required by any founder is ability to take feedback in a positive way. If my startup needs, what is my heart of my idea? Build on that. So in case of mTap, my heart was not the NFC cards. It was not about doing partnership. It was about how can I improve the networking experience. And that's what I built first. And the skills I needed for that is trying to put together the team, trying to understand whom all I need to finish the work that I need to get done. So that comes up to the third skill, that you need to be able to identify what skill sets are required to finish the task that you are outlining. Then you go back, and once you have identified what kind of people you need to finish your work or the minimum task, either you look for funding to hire people, or you look for co-founders to actually work that way.
So what's the right way to find a co-founder?
That's the toughest question.
Yeah.
That's the toughest question. So for me, many a times, if you see, co-founders are your long-term friends, because to me it's like a marriage. It can go sour or it can fly high.
Yeah.
And if it goes sour, it can take your startup down. So to me, finding the co-founder is all about finding a person who is having the passion towards the idea or the goal, and they are able to bring something different in the table. And there is no like, hey, I'm finding with a lamp and I'll get a co-founder. No. When you network, when you meet with a lot of people, some people you come whom you vibe and you start working with them. Okay. My biggest advice is, the first person you meet and you think that he is a good co-founder, do not commit. First, work together for some time. Find ways to work together, and if you both are able to function together, you are able to bring different perspectives on the table, then you start thinking of actually having a formal co-founder partnership.
Okay, we talk about fundraising. So how should one approach the investors, like potential investors?
So when you are approaching the investors, try to look for referrals.
Okay.
Find friends who can refer you. Because if you are approaching them warm, you have more ways to do it. Second, look to take part in pitch competitions.
Okay.
Find out which pitch competitions are happening, both online and in person. Participate in as many pitch competitions as you can, because that's a way for you to get visibility to your investors.
Okay.
Third, reach out cold. But in all the three scenarios, make sure that you have a best pitch deck ready and a demo ready for you, so that you come out the best that you have with you.
Okay, so there was a study I was reading about. So countless startups, are launched every year. So in that study, it was there only 20% of them managed to survive after 5 years. So what's the biggest mistake, according to you, that a founder should avoid?
Making a product for which there is no need in the market. That's the biggest mistake we do. We do not do proper customer discovery and customer validation. So sometimes we do discovery and not validation. What do I mean by that? So you want to build a product to solve a problem. Now, you went ahead and you figured out there is a need for the product, and you solved. So you build a product for solving the problem A. You solve the problem. But when you reach to your customer, the customer say, yeah, I wanted to solve the problem, but not this way.
Okay.
And he's not going to buy your product. So while you are working on your startup idea, you need to start. Do not need to wait for finishing your product. You need to make sure that you are able to get the early adopters to your startup just with the idea, and work with your customers so that you have a longer run. Most startups fail for reasons that building the product for which there is no need. 2, bad management of the cash flow. They burn out cash much early on, and they do not have the runway for their developers or for marketing. Third, investing all money in development and not understanding the concepts of marketing their product to get to the customer.
In the end, I would like to know your perspective about the future of startups in India.
I think this is the new Silicon Valley, because the way I am seeing how we have grown from what I was not even able to get any advice on my robots that I had built in year 1998-99 to a place where we are, where it is acceptable to society and you have tools to even be a dropout and still have a successful startup. We have come a long way, and I see this future rising because youth of today's India wants to create something. They are more curious than they were ever before to create something new. And our society is getting away from the mold that you only need to be doctors and engineers.
Exactly.
So because our society is allowing you to experiment, that is very bright for our future.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
you
you
so much.
Thank you.